Hi, it's Lauren, and thanks for joining me back in my craft room. Today I have an interactive card to share, and it's this unicorn sliding card over a rainbow. I'm so excited to share with you this tutorial right after this. I have my rainbow die from the Whimsy Stamps Array of Rainbows die set, and I am going to cut out a bunch of different colors from my smooth cardstock by scrapbook.com. And I also have a white piece of cardstock and some double-sided adhesive sheets. I'm going to trim this adhesive sheet to fit the size of my white cardstock. I'll peel off one side of the release paper and I'm going to place it onto my white cardstock. And this will just help me have a nice even amount of adhesive on my cardstock because I am going to be arranging my rainbow on this piece. So once that's secured onto my cardstock, I'm going to peel off the other side of the adhesive sheet, and now my cardstock is sticky. I'm going to start with my pink rainbow color here, and it's going to be my first color, so I'm going to lay that down. I'm going to work on through the colors using orange next, then followed by yellow, green, and then blue. This die has die cuts for 5 colors, but you could probably make a 6th one work if you just kind of bend it and play with the paper. Once that's secure, I'm using my bone folder just to help make sure I have good adhesion between my smooth cardstock and my sticky white cardstock. And then I'm using some non-stick scissors to trim away all of the excess paper. So I'm trimming underneath the blue cardstock, and then I'm going to trim off the edges of the color cardstock. And then I will finally cut around the pink. So now I just have a rainbow that is nice and sturdy on this thick piece of cardstock and really adhered down and secure onto that paper. So once I am happy with how that rainbow is trimmed, I am going to clean up my workstation, and now we're going to work on creating our sliding area. So the nice thing about these no-see kinetic dies from Whimsy Stamps is that the purpose of them is that your slider is hidden behind a layer of paper or medium on your project. So I'm going to use the longest of my straight slider dies, but I need to make sure I know exactly where I want to put it. And I got distracted by figuring out how I'm going to hide the sliding mechanism of my rainbow. So I'm going to work on the front of my card before I do any die cutting for my sliding part of my card. So I'm bringing out another piece of white cardstock, and I'm really just eyeballing here. I started this card, actually it's my second time attempting this card, and the first time just did not turn out great. I don't know if it was just because I was crafting late at night and everything I was doing was just wrong. I was so frustrated. I went to bed like angry. I was like, oh, I hate this card, and I wanted to just like rip it apart and throw it away. But I went to bed, and the next day I got up and I tried again. So my rainbow came out looking better. I knew that I wanted to use a straight die, but then I also wanted to have more interest on what was happening on the front of my card. So I'm using some Pearlescent Vellum from Fawn, and I use one of my cloudy edger dies, and I am going to layer this on my card. So I have my rainbow. I have a piece of white cardstock that I'm going to glue the rainbow to that will hide all of my sliding mechanism on my card. But I thought it was plain, so I'm going to start with that vellum, and I'm going to also add in some sparkly paper. As you know from many of my other cards where I have clouds, I love layering white clouds on white paper, where my clouds are made of this pearlescent vellum as well as some white sparkle paper. So let me get this rainbow glued onto my cardstock. It takes me a couple tries because nothing can go easy with this card. Overall, it's a very easy design. I don't know why I was having so much trouble assembling everything. So I have my rainbow on my white cardstock. I trimmed down my pearlescent vellum to fit that same size of cardstock, and so my clouds didn't cover too much of my rainbow. I'm going to run that same cloudy edger die through my die cut machine with this sparkly cardstock, and I'm gonna again just kind of eyeball exactly where I need to trim it just using a pencil, and then I'm gonna bring out my guillotine trimmer to trim that paper down. So once those are done, I am going to glue my clouds onto my front panel of my card. Now with vellum, as you crafters know, glue just really likes to show up behind the vellum. So unless you're putting an even layer of adhesive behind the whole entire piece, I like to glue something in front of the vellum and then apply the glue behind the vellum so it's hidden behind whatever it is you just glued to the front. And that way you can glue on your vellum without worrying about any of that glue showing. Now there is no adhesive on the right side of my cloud, and that is kind of a big cloud, but I didn't really have a problem with it. It stayed in place. It didn't get in the way of my unicorn when it moves across the card, which you'll see later, so I'm not worried about it. If you want more adhesive there, you could always, put something in front of the vellum to hide any glue dots from putting glue behind the vellum. Okay, so now we're ready to die cut the sliding part of the mechanism. So I placed my die behind my rainbow and then laid it onto my white cardstock and tried to just keep my fingers there and some blue tape to tape it in place, and I ran it through my die cut machine. I also die cut out of some sturdy cardstock the pull tab pieces of the slider card, and I cut out 2 circles, the pull tab, as well as the no-see part of this whole entire sliding no-see mechanism. So I'm going to apply 2 small little dimensionals but on my first circle, and those will fit perfectly into my sliding die cut on that white panel. So I will peel off the release paper and put those in place. And then my next layer is going to be the part that will fold over and be on the other side of the rainbow, and this is the no-see part. So this is where my unicorn is going to be attached. So I glued those on to those little dimensionals, and then I'm going to use some wet glue to adhere on the pull tab piece, and just lining that up with my die cut sliding portion of my panel and making sure everything is straight because I'm using glue, and it looks pretty good. So then I will close up my little sandwich by adding more glue and the last of the circles that I cut out. So now that everything is adhered, I want to make sure it's dry and it's working before I go any further. And as with most of my interactive cards, you're going to see me pulling on this pull tab a lot, making sure that nothing is stuck, everything is moving, everything is smooth. I was going to edit it out, but I do it a lot and it would look really choppy if I edit out all the times that I did it. So now that the mechanism is done, I'm going to start gluing my rainbow onto this panel. So I'm going to trim some foam tape. I'm going to add a couple layers I'm going to add a couple pieces behind my rainbow front panel here. So I have one piece just under my sliding mechanism, and that's to help kind of create a tunnel for it. So I am placing one down, making sure that my interactive piece can move freely, and then I'm going to add a couple more behind my rainbow. That will just make sure this front panel is nice and sturdy. I want to make sure I also don't have any exposed pieces of my foam tape. So once I have that all in place, I'll peel off the release paper and put it on down to the front of the card. And of course, I accidentally nudged my pull tab. I don't know if you saw it right there. And I got totally stuck in between my foam tape and my rainbow. So add that to the list of things of me wanting to just throw this card away. But it worked out fine. It was not a big deal. I think I was just being irrational. And so now I want to add some more tape to the top part. Now this will create a little bit of a stop. So I didn't want to add too much tape because, as you can see, I'm debating even right now, is this too much of a stop? Does my unicorn even go far enough over? But you know what? It really needs the support there, so we're going to go with it. In fact, it even needs a little more support. So I'm going to take another small piece of foam tape. I'm going to gently try to pull up my rainbow and put a little more foam tape to create, again, that little tunnel right there at the end of my pull tab to make sure that it's not all over the place when I'm pulling it in and out of its little sliding slot. I'm going to fold over the no-see part of my tab and just make sure that it's not going to interfere with anything. And I'm really sorry this is out of frame, but I just wanted to make sure it was plenty of room and that it wasn't going to get stuck or run out of space. So now that that is done, I also have this cute unicorn. He is so rainbowy and has shiny wings, and I just absolutely love him. I actually colored him last night for my other card, so that's why you're not going to see me color it in this video. But I did save him from my horrible card. So now I'm going to glue him onto this no-see panel. I trimmed off any excess. I didn't want it to be showing because after all it is a no-see. And added some wet glue, and I'm just going to glue him right onto that piece. Make sure again I'm pulling on that tab, nothing's interfering, everything seems to be working well. So I'm pretty happy with how this has turned out. Now I'm going to cut a little bit into this panel. It was kind of bothering me that there wasn't enough space for me to grab the pull tab, and I'm going to actually put some more foam adhesive on the back of this white panel, and that way it would just give a little more space for the card recipient's fingers to be able to grab onto that pull tab and pull it out so you can make that unicorn fly across the rainbow. So now that that's done, I'm going to flip it over and bring out some more foam adhesive. I'm bringing out my super wide roll, and I will trim it down to fit behind this back panel. Again, I really want to make sure I am not going to interfere with the mechanism in any way. I'm going to peel off that release tape. I also have a little bit behind where the mechanism goes all the way on the right side. I'm going to pull it out as far as I can on the left and add some more foam adhesive. Really want to make sure this is nice and sturdy and durable for my card recipient. I place that onto my card base, and now my slider mechanism and everything is good to go. Except for the fact that I totally did not stamp a sentiment. I have this huge blank area, so you know what? We're gonna push our luck and stamp some sentiment stamps from Whimsy onto my card base. So I'm using Magical Wishes in my VersaFine and Onyx black ink, and because I have all that foam tape really behind that panel, it actually stamped not too bad. I was very happy with it. So I have my Magical Wishes sentiment. I'm going to pull that pull tab about 300 more times. And I thought, you know what, it needs something shiny as always. So I found these rainbow gems in my stash. I'm just going to put a bunch in different spots, but still felt too empty in that top left corner. So I'm going to be daring again, bring out my stamp, and I stamped Unicorn Kisses, and I left room for an and sentiment, and magically I did not mess it up. I was super happy. So I have my wonderful unicorn card. Let me slow it down here to normal speed so you can see. I have my shiny clouds, my pulling unicorn, and I'm really happy with how this turned out, and I'm super glad I stuck with it. Thank you so much for watching this tutorial. I hope it inspires you to try something out like this yourself. You can find all of my links to my products down in my description, and I hope you'll click that like button if you enjoyed today's video, and I hope you'll subscribe if you're new. Thank you so much for watching, and have a wonderful day.